A home is a place that grows with you. I love that. That's character in a space, and as much as possible, I try to preserve that. I think that can give something dimension and make it interesting. When designing a space, the first place to start is gathering inspiration and creating a design direction. So today I'm going to use my living room. We'll look through ideas, we'll gather inspiration for color, design style, and also assess existing pieces from our space. I'm really excited. I can't wait to get started. This really is such a fun part of the process. This is the daydreaming phase. You can really think up and imagine anything. What do I want this room to feel like? What's the mood of this space? Do I want it to be dark and intimate? Do I want it to be bright and happy? So I like to just walk in a space, whatever state it's in, be in it, look around. I like to think, what would look good on this room? Like putting together an outfit, how would I dress this room? For the example of our living room, I want this room to feel collected and intentional and personal. It has lots of natural light, windows on almost all sides. I want it to be a place where there's activity, where things are happening. It's a very active room. So I'm not going to go too dark and moody in this space in particular. It feels more practical for it to be a bit brighter. Think about the four walls that you have, the ceiling and the floor, as a canvas. It's an empty box and you can make it what you want it to be. And deciding how you want it to feel first will then help you in the specific decisions you make later. All right, let's clear some space here. I am going to start pulling these things into the middle of the table so I can see it all together. Design books are a great place to go for ideas. Just pay attention to your emotional response. What feeling is it evoking? Is it calm? Is it vibrant? And then think to yourself, how do I want to feel in my space? Linger on images you really like to pinpoint what is it that I like about that space. I found this really great terracotta tile at a salvage store. I don't need tile in my living room. So this, again, isn't a specific literal reference. This is just, I like the color, I like the feel, the texture, I'm gonna throw it in there. Me being a designer, I've got all these things at arm's reach. I just keep them on hand for projects. For you, it might be going to a local wallpaper shop, fabric store, but same process applies. Old postcards. There's something about old paper. Maybe it's the tattered edges or the slightly muted colors, but I'm really drawn to that look. Now, these are some chairs that I spotted on a trip. I snapped a picture of them and they've always been in my mind as something I'd like to have in my space. And I think what I like about it is this earthy red color, and then also the chrome frame has sort of a 70s modern feel, and I'm really into that. I think this really nicely summarizes how I want our room to feel. And when you get to a place where you feel like, yes, this is the feeling I want my room to have, then step away and let that kind of simmer. We can get into colors next. After I've established the mood and feel that I want to go for, what is the color palette for the room? A lot of daytime activity is going to be happening in this room. This is where my family hangs out. Going with a really dark color in the space would feel out of sync with the activities that are happening in that room. It seems like I'm pretty inspired by these watery blues and greens. I'm picking up on that as a theme. I'm also noticing that this rusty red is something I like. It showed up here in these chairs that I took pictures of from a while back, and then I pulled these fabrics. So there's something there. Clearly, I'm liking those colors together. I want to define a range of colors that guides me when I'm then placing things in the room. So I'm really just gonna get out a paint deck, and you can pick this up at a hardware store. All of these blues right here work. And I'm just gonna lay these out here so that I can see how they work with the other things that I've laid down on the table. Color is so dependent on light. So get your paint samples up on the wall and live with them for a bit. Let the color change from day to night. But if you're not painting your room, that's okay. Maybe this is the color of a chair, or this is the color of a rug. It doesn't have to mean a big paint project. So by defining a color palette on the front end, you're helping yourself in the end. You're giving yourself a plan that ensures a thread you're tying between all of the furnishings that then come into your room. In our space, robin's egg blue will be a keeper. It's not so bright that it just kind of disappears. It's not a neutral. With the natural light in the room, overall, I think it'll feel like a very bright space. With a color palette defined, now you're ready to move into the design style phase of things. So there are so many design styles out there, so it can feel really confusing, overwhelming, so many options. Probably most of us, we're not one thing. It's not just all modern or all traditional or all rustic. Our personality comes out when it shows the diversity of things that we like. Don't get too bogged down by terminology. It could be as simple as, I want it to feel soft. I want it to feel relaxed and serene, or I want it to be interesting. Use language that you understand, that feels like you can make something out of it. You can put action towards it. So I know that I love 70s modern feel. So that looks like chrome and handmade ceramics and funky patterns. I also would like to honor this house that we're in. It was built in 1922, and that period of time there was a lot of Art Deco happening, sort of a French modern style. So maybe you like modern rustic or traditional bohemian. Give it specific language, and then keep that in your mind. Write it down on a piece of paper, slip it in your bag to remember what is your vision for the room, and that will then guide you through your decision making. In our living room, the architecture is more traditional. Our mantle has this really pretty intricate detail work on it. It's got like a little floral wreath on the sides. I like that, but I don't want to lean too heavy into that. So I think as I'm putting this room together, I'll be paying attention to how much I balance things that are more modern with things that are more detailed and ornate, making sure that I don't swing too far on one side or the other. Defining these design styles will give you some tools to edit. And once you get to the point of making purchases, you can also then assess what you already own and decide, does this work or does it not? So we already have this leather sofa. It's a very simple frame, which gives it a modern feel, but it also has a tufted back, so that feels a little more traditional. It's that combination of modern and traditional that I like. I think this sofa will be really perfect for our space, so I'm gonna keep that. This isn't a total redo. We're building on top of something, but now that I have a plan, I feel like I know what direction to go in and how to make decisions as I get further into this project. Okay, I just threw a lot at you. Hopefully you're not overwhelmed. Let me summarize a bit. We started with defining a mood and a feel for your space. Then we moved into picking out a color palette, giving yourself a framework to work with so that you know what colors to include in your space. Then we moved into design styles, putting some language to that. And then finally, the 5 principles of design. I feel great about my design direction. I hope you do too. So go out, gather ideas, be inspired, and be encouraged to create a design direction of your own.